Hello everyone, this is Yoda from Team Loaded, bringing you another video for Nerdstomper.com. This is the second in a three-part series on Defiler. This video is going to focus on the first few minutes, like the first 13 minutes or 12 minutes of the game. The first video focused on what the general strategy of Defiler was and item builds and skill builds, and the next video is going to focus on the next 12 and a half minutes of the game, so up to about the 26-minute mark. One thing you might notice is that in the first video I talked about your starting items, and I said I like to get some regen and some Mark of the Novices, but this particular game I realized that with their lineup they had a Zeus or a Thunderbringer and a Chipper, and one of those heroes was definitely going to solo mid. So regardless of which hero that is, I'm going to need a lot of regen because they're heavy nukers. And also, Mana Battery would be really good to start off with because both of them tend to use their spells at level 1. And so, hoping that it's Zeus mid, I actually just skimped out a little bit on extra plus damage because it's likely that he's going to be using his first skill to get CS, so there won't be that much competition. And instead I opted for an extra set of Runes of the Blight, and also for Mana Battery. It's important that you're able to identify situations like this and keep your game flexible and not use a certain item build as your go-to no matter what, regardless of the game. So in the first video I also talked about that it's important to stay really close to the creeps so that your attacks will land before theirs do. As you'll notice, I'm standing pretty close, up almost in front of the range creep most of the time. But sometimes I stand a little far back. That is a mistake. Really, I should be just standing right up next to the creep so that I'll have the easiest time CSing and be able to give him the most trouble. As you saw, my distance from the creeps allowed him to make his decisions after I did, which allowed him to get better CS in the first wave. He did use a lot of mana though, and that caused him to have to use a mana potion. In this game, he actually ended up buying multiple mana potions, which I really don't like. And since if you buy a mana potion to get full use of it, you have to stay pretty far back for the full duration, which is 30 seconds, which is basically an eternity when you're soloing. So as you saw, as soon as he started using mana potion, I played pretty aggressive, and then none of his mana potions got him probably more than 20 mana, and he ended up missing some CS just to try to keep him alive, which cost him a little bit. It's not too much of a detriment, but any edge is an edge you want in 1v1, or in any HON game really. As you can see, my item choices are actually turning out to be pretty good since his nukes are causing me to have to regen a lot early, and I'm adequately prepared for that since I bought an extra set of runes. And also he's getting pretty low since he's playing so aggressive, so hopefully my build will work out. Also, I'm building up a lot of charges on my mana battery, so if he ever decides to get into a true fight with me, then that'll hopefully give me a bit of an edge, since I'll be able to heal I don't know what the exact math is, 15 times 10 HP. Well, actually 15 times 10 is pretty easy, it's just 150. So I'll be able to heal 150 HP. I guess he'll probably expect it, but he probably won't expect that it's that much. So I basically have 150 extra HP if I want during a big fight. So he probably won't be able to fight me as the game progresses. Here you see he actually ran out of regen before me, so I was able to play really aggressive and chase him away from the creeps. I wasn't actually able to get a kill here because that's just how mid works. You have to be super far ahead and they have to slip up really hard for you to get a kill. But I was able to chase him back and he missed a couple creeps, and I think right now he's actually just out of regen, so he's just going cold until his bottle. Here, as you can see, when he started diving me, my mana battery turned out to be really useful. It looks like I'm getting dived a little bit. Hopefully he doesn't spin. Yeah, he doesn't spin, so looks like I live with about 13 HP, which is pretty lucky since first he had to not spin, and then I had to just barely live, so it's pretty lucky for me. I think if Thunderbringer had been a little bit more aggressive, then I probably would have died. But he wasn't, so it's pretty lucky for me. Right now, obviously, I'm also out of regen, but I also had 600 gold, so I can afford my bottle. The only problem is that the crow recently went top. One thing that's very important, this time it was okay because it was crowed, but an important thing when you're side laning is don't use the chicken or the monkey for just like small items for yourself until mid has gotten their bottle, because mid often runs out of regen just as, like, they time it so they get their bottle just as they run out of regen. So if you hog the monkey, then your mid could get really owned for like up to a minute or 2 minutes, which is a lot of time. This game was actually, it actually turned out to be okay, since I didn't miss out too much, since it was already crowed before they used the monkey top. But it could have potentially been a big loss. Looks like Thunderbringer also finished his bottle about the same time. He should have just gone straight for the rune, but he didn't, which allowed me to refill my bottle. So now I have a full bottle against his empty bottle. So remember in the first video I said you're supposed to trade HP and pick up runes? Well, this is probably just what I'm going to do. I'm going to trade HP with him and trade mana, as I'm doing right now. Obviously the way to beat what I'm doing, or at least survive, is to use the crow to refill your bottle, but if he does that, then he's kind of hogging the crow, and the side lanes won't be able to use the crow as often. And that is a little, like, it's still good for me. So even though there's a way to mitigate my strategy, it's not a complete counter, and I'm still winning by a little bit. With Defiler, a lot of the advantages you get are just going to be small advantages, since you don't have like any way to just like really kill them. So you don't have a stun or a snare. All you have is like an efficient nuke that has an efficient AoE nuke, and your ultimate isn't like really good at killing heroes. It's just good at just getting you a small edge. Like, they can't charge you, and it's good at like pushing towers and making it so they have limited options, but it's not really good at just completely destroying them. At this point, I think I got tabbed while I was recording, so I had to jump in. So I had to tab back in and then jump back to the game. It looks like this Valkyrie is doing a really good job ganking for me. I didn't really have to do anything, but Valkyrie did her thing, and that was enough to kill the Thunderbringer because I traded him HP, just such a low HP amount. Looks like the other lane's coming to gank me. Once again, Mana Battery proving its usefulness, as I used it just before an attack landed. One key thing to do with Mana Battery is not to use charges just randomly, but you should just use them as they're needed. Like, even if you have a full mana battery, you shouldn't use it, because a full mana battery is a really good item to have. Here it looks like I got a little lucky again, since Legionnaire didn't spin, and I was able to pull out of the conflict just barely ahead. Unfortunately, Thunderbringer was able to just ultimate when he spawned, so it didn't turn out too well. But as you noticed, mana battery was actually super useful, and it's really important that you use mana battery effectively if you're gonna just use it. I see so many people just with power source and mana battery, they just use it like just out of nowhere, just for nothing. And really, you should just save it for a rainy day, like what just happened. Another note about mana battery: you should hold off on buying your power source recipe for as long as possible, because your power source recipe is actually pretty inefficient. It's 290 gold, and the only bonuses is like a marginal bonus on your mana battery, like 5 extra charges maximum, which doesn't come too often. Usually you'll have a good time to use your mana battery before it's full anyway. But the power source bonus is like pretty minimal, and you also get +1 all stats, which is really not what you want to be spending 290 gold on. So you should basically just hold off on buying your power source until you have absolutely no room in your inventory. So right now I'm not going to buy a power source before I finish my enhanced marchers. I'm just going to wait until I have 1,000 gold, then get enhanced marchers, and then, since I'll have a full inventory and I won't be able to buy any more items, then I'll buy my power source. Another thing that came up last fight that I haven't really had time to mention is using the crow mid-fight. One thing that's going to really benefit you is if you're able to micro the crow well enough to bring items to yourself during a fight, especially if it's a key item like boots or marchers or your bottle, or even enhanced marchers upgrade. That kind of upgrade is really fight changing, especially early, so you should really pay attention and be able to just adapt yourself to that. So I just picked up a haste rune, but it doesn't look like I'll be able to pick off this Thunderbringer. There's an argument to be made for just charging at him like into a tower with no vision, but honestly, with Thunderbringer's nuking potential, I didn't think it was going to be a good idea, since I probably need to hit him like at least 3 times to actually finish him with my nuke, and I didn't think I was going to be able to hit him 3 times before his nukes in the tower finished me off. Once again, Defiler's not really a hero that just kills them like all in one shot. it's really a hero that you want to build incremental advantages on. Here it looks like I got ganked again, which is kind of unfortunate. Wards, my allies really should have put up wards, but instead they kind of just decided to send the chicken to me, or send the flying courier to me with wards on it, even though obviously I'd have a full inventory, because you should always have a full inventory when you're playing HON. So they weren't actually able to put the wards up. Honestly, when you buy wards in the side lane, you should put the wards up yourself, because right now it's like 8-minute mark, I think, and allies still haven't like left the lane enough to be able to put up wards, which is really bad for team synergy. There should be a lot more map movement before the 10-minute mark. So earlier I mentioned that it's important to always have a full inventory, but I didn't quite say why. Inventory space is actually very valuable in HON. For instance, like an item like Miner Totem takes up a full inventory space, but it's very cheap, and it gives you, in terms of how cheap it gives you a huge boost in power. Like, compare Miner Totem to, just say the next item, the +2 all stats item. Miner Totem is more than less than a third of the cost, but it gives you half the power. So already you're paying like you're paying extra money to save item slots by buying the Circlet of Nobility. A good example of this is Power Source, which I was talking about earlier. Basically, you're spending 290 gold for +1 all stats, minor upgrade to your item, but the key factor is that you're consolidating your inventory into it's like 4 item slots consolidated into 1 item slot, which is really what you're paying for when you buy a Power Source. Knowing this concept is gonna really just tell you basically what item to go at all times. Since item slots are something valuable, being able to manage your item slots correctly is gonna basically just give you like free gold every game if you think about it that way. So back to the game. Right now it looks like I'm just gonna spam waves until I have my enhanced marchers. I think I mentioned this in the guide video. Essentially, once you're at this point in the game, all you really want is just to farm mid for your enhanced marchers. And then once you get that, start moving around the map. It's also important to keep your eye out for early ganks, since that's one of the ways you can die really fast with Defiler. So in this game, I think I set up some nice wards at the top and the bottom. Just every angle that a gank could possibly come for me, I had vision of, which made me able to spot ganks in advance. Also, it allowed us to see the sides of the lane pretty clearly, which set up good windows of opportunity for my allies to gank for me as well, as just happened. In the middle game, warding is, or not in the middle game, just like at about this point in the game, like 10 minutes, it's very important to notice which lane is where most of the action is coming from, and then put wards up in that lane and not wasting them in some other place. So this game probably can't really see them clearly, but the wards are basically just on the 2 ledges that lead to middle lane on our side, so we were able to see a good many ganks coming and have vision for fights. So after we just beat them in that fight due to the ward placement, I was able to get the tower kill, which is really good, and looks like I've got my enhanced marchers, so I'm going to officially declare that the early game has ended, and the rest of the game will be in the next video. Once again, this is Yoda from Team Loaded, and bringing you this video for Nerdstomper.com.